Hello everybody, how is everyone doing? So in this video, I'll be talking about sensorimotor OCD and how that also intertwines with the fear of fear component also. So with sensorimotor OCD, it's a theme that you don't often hear talked about. Why is that? Well, it's because it's widely misunderstood by most people in the mainstream therapy world, I'm afraid. Now, Nick and Rob have done many videos talking about sensorimotor OCD. It was one of Nick's main themes, really bringing it out of the dark, really raising awareness to how that theme is operating. But I thought I just want to cover that as well, being an OCD coach, and also my own personal experience with sensorimotor OCD. I think it'll be very important to cover, to hear that, how it can operate in many different ways and how it can latch, and the subtle fear of fear component behind it, the fear of being stuck forever, the fear of being trapped, noticing a sensation forever. Especially when I had OCD morphing and switching and moving, it did latch to sensorimotor for a little while, the fear of being trapped and locked in and not being able to handle it. So with sensorimotor OCD, there are varying bodily sensations that it can latch to. So you've got your big ones. You've got your blinking, you've got your swallowing, you've got your saliva, you've got your heart palpitations, your heart sensations, you've got your stomach sensations, any kind of physical sensation really. You've got your eye movement, you've got your dizziness, it can link into vertigo fears and dizziness fears. It can link into pretty much anything. Sensorimotor can latch to any physical sensation which you'd be scared of noticing forever, scared of being trapped forever. And the first thing I want to cover there is, sensorimotor OCD isn't just noticing a sensation. It's not that at all. It's the fear of being trapped in it. Almost like that internal torturous cycle of being trapped within it and not being able to escape it, not being able to see a way out, or how am I going to carry on living life, without noticing sensation. You feel like you're going to be locked on permanently, noticing your blinking or being trapped in the saliva, the swallowing, the breathing sensation, all these different sensations that it can match to. It's the foreverness and it's the permanence of it, and not being able to sit with that discomfort and constantly trying to find the right blink or constantly trying to feel the just right sensation. And a lot of it is going to come down to building that tolerance, sitting with the discomfort, not needing to get rid. The main exposure of sensorimotor OCD is life, right? You can't just stop blinking, right? You can't just stop breathing. Well, you can try, but that's not going to end very well. You can't just stop noticing your saliva. You can't just switch it off like that. So the main exposure is living your life, getting comfortable with that sensation being there, getting comfortable, getting accustomed to noticing that sensation and allowing it to latch for however long it's going to latch to. Any form of resistance, any form of pushing it away means it's likely to get very stuck, and you're going to get locked on and fixated, and you get angry and think, oh, why have I just got to notice this stomach sensation? Why have I got to notice this dizziness sensation, this dizziness feeling, or whatever it may be, or feel like you're sort of trapped in this headache sensation? There's so many ways, so many varying ways that sensorimotor can move and morph and switch and change and twist. OCD is very creative. Sensorimotor OCD is very inventive, of finding different sensations it can lock onto. And quite often it can just be one, it can just sort of go after your blinking or go after your breathing or whatever, but I've also seen it move and switch. Now, me personally, I had blinking quite bad, locking onto every time I would blink, and then it would be as if it almost felt like shutters coming down, blink, 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 and then getting trapped in that, thinking, well, if I'm locked in that sensation forever, then how can I enjoy anything? Like, how can that? Surely my life is now compromised, and I couldn't be present. So I then try and force the present moment, and then I would be scared of doing things that I want to do because I think, well, that's going to be ruined now because all I can think about is my blinking. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of frustration. That was, why have I got to notice my blinking now? Just sort of having that short temper, that low fuse, just snapping and being really irritable. And my only escape was sort of any kind of instant gratification, like unhealthy distractions, because the thing was like reassurance. It's not really going to work for sensorimotor OCD because you can't just be told that, oh, it's, what can you be told in regards to your blinking? You can't be told anything. It's usually just trying to forcefully distract yourself or trying to forcefully be present. But the problem is that OCD tends to slice through that, and it's only very temporarily that you may be able to distract yourself before you're locked on your blinking again. I used to wake up and then boom, the blinking sensation was there. And I think, oh God, I've got another day just noticing my blinking. And you can feel quite deflated. You can feel quite hopeless in that moment, especially if you've got like a big occasion coming up as well. And you think, right, I just want to enjoy this vacation, or I just want to enjoy this weekend that I'm out seeing friends. I just want to be able to enjoy it. I want to be at peace. And then OCD goes, yeah, but how can you be at peace? Because you're trapped in this sensation of your blinking, and it sort of locks onto every second of the day because it's all you can fixate on. And I often liken it to like a torturous inner cycle where you're almost being tortured by your own brain because you can't just stop blinking. Like there's nothing you can do. You can't just keep your eyes open. You can't just stop. You can't just let the saliva flow naturally because you're so hyper aware. You're so hyper aroused of the sensation that you can't just stop noticing it. Like anybody telling you just to stop notice your sensorimotor sensation doesn't really understand anything about OCD, I'm afraid. And that's just the reality because you can't. It's like somebody telling you to stop ruminating. You can't. That's just not going to work. You've got to look at why you're ruminating, dissecting all the beliefs behind it and so on. And then the rumination comes down as a byproduct of all the belief work and all the philosophy changes and the perspective shifts and so on. And sensorimotor is a bit like that. And the main thing with sensorimotor for me and how I overcame that was allowing myself to notice the sensation, like allowing it to be there. So blink, blink, or breathe, breathe, like saliva, whatever, or the heart, or the stomach, or what. I had a lot of that with sort of bladder as well, and bowel movement. Constantly hyper aware of, wait, what is it? Can I detect some kind of bowel movement? Oh God, what is if I fall short? Linking to sort of the fear of the humiliation, fear of the rejection, I can't make it to the toilet, so you've got that angle as well. Just the annoyance of noticing the bladder sensation, like, oh, do I need to pee? Do I need to go? Do I go back and forth? Do I need to? That constant 24/7, like I said, inner torment where it's like, do I not? Affecting sleep as well. Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? All very common, I see this all the time. It can also latch to like itching sensations as well. Like, what is if I need to itch? What is if there's this unscratchable itch that I can't get to? What is if I just keep itching and then I can never get rid of that? What is if, you just sort of notice let's say you notice your nose, right? And this triggers lots of people, these kind of things, like hearing about new themes. But what is if I notice my nose and then I don't stop noticing it? And then I'm just forever locked on that nose sensation of, oh, have I never noticed this before? What is if, and look at that right there, the fear of fear right there, where you notice your nose and you think, wait, I've noticed that. So now what if I don't unnotice it? And now it doesn't unlatch. And therefore my life is now ruined forever and I'm stuck forever. And this is one's going to haunt me. And you start saying things like, oh, if only I didn't notice that. Or if only I did just think about that. If only I didn't hear somebody talk about that. Very common for people to avoid even talking about these different themes. There's an exposure watching this video alone. Especially if you don't have sensorimotor OCD. An exposure is thinking, oh no, Sam, now I'm trapped on my blinking. And you're watching this video going, blink, 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 blink. And you think, oh shit, what have you done? What have you done? And this is why it's a good exposure in itself to hear about new themes, because a big part of overcoming fear of fear is allowing OCD to latch to all kinds of different themes. It can also get after the the speech as well. I see that's quite common, stutter OCD. What is if it all links into sensorimotor? It's the sensation of stuttering. It's that fear of the mental block, the fear of the mind going blank, the fear of forgetting things. All links in. It certainly does. And then every time you speak, you think, wait, what is if I stutter? What is if I sort of slip up on my words? And then you're sort of hyper focused on your words then. And then ironically, you're more likely to bring on the stuttering sensation or the stuttering action because you're so focused. OCD is wild, isn't it? It's very creative, is the word I like using. It's a genius in its own regard of how it latches to certain things. And you've got to give it the respect it deserves. It deserves a lot of respect, OCD. Not too much respect, but you need to understand how it operates and allow it to do that. Don't try and fight it. Don't try and have that tug of war with OCD, because it's always going to come off on top and it's always going to win. So, like I said, the fear of fear, the what is if this one latches, I can never get over this one? What is if I'm haunted forever? What is if this is the one that leaves me stuck forever, panicking? sat in the corner of a room, rocking back and forth in a chair, once if this is the one that sends me to a mental hospital, OCD is going to go to those extremes. And this is why it's very common that, people avoid hearing about new themes, because they're scared of hearing about that new theme or that new sensory motor sensation that's going to keep them trapped, locked in forever. We've got to go towards that. They link in, sensory motor and fear of fear link in. When I was stuck with fear of fear, sensory motor would then play the biggest part, because I was scared of getting trapped on a sensation. So then my OCD was then scanning and looking around because of the fear of my life being compromised by OCD latching to a sensation, and then being trapped in that and not being able to escape that. And for eternity, my life constantly being soured because of OCD and sensory motor, because I never unnoticed or unlocked from this symptom, whatever, or the sensation, whatever it was, and therefore my life forever being hindered and blocked and thwarted. So it's very crafty how it was operating there. The common compulsions are like forcing, forcing the present moment. It can also be just sort of, you can have the self-reassurance. I often see that a lot, where it's like, oh, I'll forget it one day, or I won't always notice this. Or that is self-reassurance statements you've got to be very aware of. Constantly researching content about OCD as well. That's a very common one. A lot of it can be avoidance as well. So that's a big compulsion that I see. Avoidance with sensory motor, just avoiding life until that sensation is gone, or until they stop noticing it. And you could be waiting forever, I'm afraid, with that kind of mindset, that kind of approach. We've got to go and live our life. Hence why the biggest exposure of sensory motor OCD is living your life, keeping up a very good structure, being very disciplined, not going down the instant gratification, addictive habits path, which is very easy with sensory motor. Nick struggled with that. Nick's tolerance was very low. Lots of anger involved, which is very understandable with sensory motor OCD, because you want to sort of unleash yourself and go, if only this fucking sensation wasn't there, then I could live my life. So it's easy to get so frustrated, and then a way to diffuse that frustration would have been to sort of adult websites and video games, and just all kinds of unhelpful escape behaviours, just not helping. And it's very commonly linked with sensory motor and fear of fear, because it seems like the only escape when you're trapped in that. So your exposure is living your life even locked in that sensation. I know that's hard, going out, you go dating if you're single, you go into football events, or sporting events, music concerts, going to work still, actively getting engaged in your relationship, not putting that off, not putting off intimate moments, not putting off affection, not putting time and energy, going out with your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever, still spending time with them even when you're locked in that sensation, still getting absorbed by some kind of passion of yours, some kind of interest, some kind of hobby. Don't neglect. Easy to do just to neglect everything. I think, fuck that. I'm reading that book, I was enjoying that book because of this breathing sensation now. I'm not going to bother reading it because I just feel so uncomfortable. I feel quite distressed, so I'm just going to neglect it. All those things you've got to be careful of, because that's allowing OCD to build. All right, and it's very, very common for that to happen. But we've got to sort of stand firm and stand our ground and go, nope, I'm not going to go down the path of avoidance because of sensory motor or just OCD in general. I've got to really try and keep it up. Be careful of the venting, another massive compulsion. The venting, they're actively showing signs of your frustration because of sensory motor latching to a different sensation. Okay, I wish it was talked about more. I really do. It's a very common theme. I see it a lot as a coach. Like I said, it was when I had fear of fear, it was the one that it always used to target would be sensory motor. Like going out, I'd be out running as an example, and then it would suddenly be latching to my blinking as I'm out running and things like that, where all I could think about is my blinking, and and then it would latch to my breathing, just things that it would catch me off guard and think, oh shit, what if I'm really pushing myself whilst running, and all I can think about is my blinking now. That's then going to affect something that I'm enjoying, so therefore I can't run. If I can't breathe properly, that's going to affect any kind of physical exertion, any kind of physical activity is going to affect that now. Oh God, so now I've got to avoid all of that. No, you've got to do all these things anyway, even when it is latching to all these kind of different sensations. All right, you're not alone. There is hope. email phil@ocdrecovery.com, and we can certainly help you out with sensorimotor OCD and the fear of fear element to it as well. And OCD will morph, it will switch up, and it's just one of those things. It's the next level of the game on the recovery journey when it starts switching. So email Phil or message the WhatsApp group or the WhatsApp number in the description of this video. You get in touch with us here. My name is Sam. You've got other coaches. You've got Nick, Rob, Momin, Elliot, and Gemma. All do videos on the YouTube channel and also coaching calls, and we can certainly help you break down these particular themes, okay? You can often feel trapped. You can often feel like you're the exception. You can often feel like you're never going to escape. But it's all about breaking down that illusionary fear barrier, seeing how the fear of fear is operating, how it's disguising itself behind the theme itself, and just getting the right guidance so you can overcome it. You don't have to be stuck forever with these particular themes. Okay, guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you blink in peace. I hope you breathe in peace. I hope you notice your saliva in peace. And I say that because it's very common to be triggered watching these kind of videos, but we've got to go towards it. You've got to be looking to gain your knowledge and gain your insight into the disorder itself to give you the best chance of overcoming it once and for all and building that sustainable and robust recovery. Guys, look after yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.